Having a blockchain is having digital immutable ledger. That means you can't cheat. And the thing is why should good human beings that work hard, when you put your sweat equity into something, you'd want people to be honest and fair, and it makes it honest and fair. Like, you can't tell me, how is somebody right now going to cheat with Bitcoin? There's only so many. How are they going to cheat? It's everything is recorded on the chain. People go, it's dark web. People are using it to launder money. Really? It's all transparent. That's recorded. Anytime Bitcoin's been stolen, the FBI got them in 3 days. I mean, it's public, it's recorded, and it's honest. And if you wanted to do a real estate transaction or any transaction and you record it on a blockchain, they can't say, well, that wasn't the deal. Here's the deal. It's memorialized forever. This is the deal. It's right here.
Welcome back to the Blockster podcast. We have the absolute pleasure to interview Peter Antico today. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Good to be here.
I know that we'll be talking about the film industry and how you're trying to revolutionize it. But before we do that, I would love to learn a bit more about your journey into crypto and your journey into film. Um, and I know that you are the megastar and you're helping some of the biggest actors there within Hollywood. But before that stage, like, was that something that you've always wanted to do and a dream that you've pursued since you were a kid, or did you develop it later in life?
When I was going to school, I was in college. My professor wanted me to go to law school, so I switched my major to English, and I was also studying macroeconomics and finance. And some of my family members were pretty prominent on Wall Street. One of my cousins was the treasurer of McKinsey and Company in New York. So I was always fascinated with finance and high finance and really how the world works, because nothing works without economics. And later on, I mean, I got into then I ended up getting into the film business because I had a neurological disorder, and I was tired of sitting in school. I was in school for 16 years, and I got an opportunity to work in Hollywood. So I started doing, when I was 20, some commercials, some acting, and a lot of action. I did a lot of action. That I learned that genre. So I worked in Hollywood for a good while. But then I ended up making documentaries. I made a documentary called The Ronda Rousey Story, for Netflix and Lionsgate, about Ronda Rousey, the MMA star. And I directed a film called The Paradigm of Money, which is a film about the infrastructure of the global financial system. And one of the main interviewees was a gentleman who I think is phenomenal, named Max Kaiser. And Max Kaiser brought Bitcoin to El Salvador. He put him on the Bitcoin standard. And Max is probably, I think, the top two spokesman for Bitcoin, him and Michael Saylor. Max has got massive integrity. He worked on Wall Street, and he called them out, for massive fraud. He didn't care who it was. He spoke the truth. He had a lot of integrity, and I think he had a stint being a little bit of a comedian too, because he's pretty funny. And but he's been pretty much spot on, Max, in what he's been saying. So out of that, I got hired to really do a lot of research on blockchain and Bitcoin, and I got hired to direct a film about Satoshi. And I got introduced to some really brilliant tech people from my contacts at Wall Street that brought me forward, and we started speaking. And I was rewriting scripts, and I wanted to make sure that all the tech was perfect about blockchain. So I spent 3 months, a long time, honing the script and, getting advice. And at the time, and before that, I had been at that Clubhouse forum and with Cafe Bitcoin, with the guys from Swan Bitcoin, Terrence Yang, awesome people. And so I kept asking questions until I was blue in the face. but I really knew the capital markets extremely well. But this tech, it takes a little time. It's a bit of a study. So then I really learned blockchain, and then I I had an idea about how to democratize and decentralize media using advanced blockchain technology and tokenization, which will change the game. It'll allow people to actually participate and become stakeholders in projects they actually love and support, want to see, and they profit from it, which is a much different model where it's a crapshoot where a studio makes something and they hope people watch it and they hope that that it's got a lot of viewership, so they can monetize it, you know, through the ad revenue. But when you use tokenization, like if someone wanted to see a movie about like Satoshi, and you say, oh, it's a $30 million film, so I sell 1 million tokens for $30. So I run my budget and I can communicate as a filmmaker peer to peer with my audience. I can incentivize it, gamify it. I can sell behind the scenes tokens with any kind of swag I wish to do. But the good part about this is that those people that purchase the tokens, they have a right. They get the viewership rights and defined intellectual property rights. So the film, when it's done, will actually be embedded in the app. The MP4 is actually in the token, and you can watch it. You can click your app, which is only coded to you, on any screen you want, a cell phone, a tablet, a big screen TV, with the surround sound system, a computer. Uh, so it becomes a peer-to-peer, again, medium of exchange. And once the tokens are sold out, same principle as Bitcoin, there's no more, and the value goes up as the value of that intellectual property go up with cast and and actors and so forth. But the big difference is
Sorry to
they share.
interrupt. Just to before we go any further within the technology and how it works, I really want to ask you a few more questions about Hollywood and how was that journey. Tell me a bit more about the stars that you worked with. I know that you worked with Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Sylvester Stallone, and a few more big names. What was
Yeah.
that experience? But also, I'm sure that you stay in touch with some of the biggest stars in the industry. Like, how do they perceive crypto and blockchain? Are they still skeptical? Do they see the potential within the industry?
Mm, most people don't understand it. The problem with with Hollywood is that they're behind the times in tech, and there are a few individuals that I know that are extremely sophisticated, but they're not none of these are the big actors. They're too busy making money. Respectfully, I mean, listen, people that the average person on the street that has an opportunity if they study. But I've always been a proponent of Bitcoin, because of the scarcity. I mean, you have a lot of shit coins on the market, a lot of meme coins that people throw money in. I mean, I think you're just, pissing in the wind. I mean, the only protocol I think someone has made a use case for because of the financial system, from what I've studied, is XRP, because of the border payments. But anyway, to be Bitcoin was a peer-to-peer medium of exchange. Now, but and it transacts at 5 to 8 transactions per second. To make it scale, you have to have a layer 2. But it was always meant to be a peer-to-peer medium of exchange, which I could send my assets if I want to do business with you, and from my private wallet to your private wallet without an intermediary. That's the way it was intended. And the protocols are good. That's blockchain has never been hacked. They solved, double spend and the Byzantine general's dilemma in a certain specific way, which is very good. And I think, that a lot of people in Hollywood, they just see, oh, it's a Bitcoin, it's an asset, let's buy it. And they tell their broker to buy it, or they'll buy it on an exchange or an ETF, which in my opinion, I would never recommend. You should always buy Bitcoin and put it in your wallet. Buy a Bitcoin, pull it out, put it in your wallet. My preference is the boys at Swan Bitcoin. I think they're one of the best in the business, and they're honest, and it's Bitcoin only. And so I I believe that Hollywood, they should catch up on the times, because if eventually, if you were be able to go see films and projects and use your assets with your phone, just boom, you can collect a ticket. But the difference is that I'm doing is that I'm making so you're basically getting a digital DVD that you profit from. So if I wanted to see that movie that I was talking about Satoshi, all of the profits, once you do distribution, all of the profits come onto a blockchain. So there's no adjusted gross or adjusted gross, no Hollywood phony baloney accounting, which is 8%, 99% of the films, and Hollywood never see a back end, mostly because they triple bang the prints and ads. You got a studio, you got bricks and mortar, and they charge 3 times the amount that prints and ads uh, of expenses for film, so they never make money. It's just their own creative accounting. Even Rain Man, when it was made for 20 million, made over 300 million. The writer had to sue for his royalties. He was due royalties probably after 60 million, and it made over 300 million. And this is a commonplace. So there's an existential problem, especially the independent filmmaker has no place to go. It's very difficult to get funding. And if you get funding, if you made a $10 million movie, then the problem is, where do you do distribution? Because the streamers have it monopolized. You can go to Netflix or HBO or Amazon or Apple, and it's difficult to make a movie in a theater. So these are difficult, problems, and they're not doing anything to help the individual filmmaker. I mean, even in California, they increased their tax credit to $700 million, but it's not on the total spend. So a total spend means the crew, the rebates are on the crew, and the major actors, the writer and the director, which is where half the money is spent. So if that's not present, where you're not getting the total spend, there's no way any independent filmmaker will have an incentive to shoot in California. They need to change their way. They need to get it make it on a total spend, and they should earmark 300 billion of that money to independent film, because all independent film is going to Alabama, Kentucky, Atlanta, and then most of the production is now going overseas, because they had several strikes in the film business. TV, theatrical, and game strikes, video game strikes. And the sad part about it is that they basically, I think they made very poor choices to be kind in their negotiations. I think they gave up basically artificial intelligence. The Writers Guild and the Screen Actors Guild gave it up, and they made scanning someone's likeness a condition of employment, which is, in my opinion, is, let's just say, to be kind, not productive at all. And the Writers Guild allowed them to ingest their writing. So when you got 21 or generative AI models ingesting screenplays all day long, these brilliant writers, beautiful scribes writing from their soul, AI is too sophisticated. Every 3 months, it's like a year in AI time. And in my opinion, in short order, they'll be able to, spit out scripts. And I think the writers put a nail in their own coffin. I think the Screen Actors Guild put a nail in their own coffin. And I think there needs to be new models to protect the artist. And I served on the boards of SAG-AFTRA for over 10 years and ran the technology committee for 4. And then having to try to educate people that are just used to art and technology is a little difficult. You really have to have a forward-thinking, intelligent board, in order to move it forward. I brought AI to them in 2017, and they didn't listen. I ran for president of the Screen Actors Guild in 2017, and I brought AI, machine learning, to track residuals, to make sure people were honest all over the world. You can move this and run voice and face recognition protocols, and they never listened. I think the leadership is lacking business ethics, business acumen, and I think they have to learn how to run it like a business without emotion. Because if you want to build a house, you have to start with the foundation, and it's a business, so you have to do things that are pro business, that put money and capital in the people's pockets. What's the value add? If you're going to spend money, spend it on something that will put money back in the members' hands, and for the benefit uh, of the union. And if it's not a value as, a union shouldn't be spending money on it. So, that's, the Hollywood part. That's where tokenization comes in, because if Larry Fink said they're gonna tokenize $12 trillion worth of real world assets. He started doing that 6 months ago, about a year. I loved it. About a year and 4 months into my project that we're building it out, Ethical Media Group's protocols. Um, it's it was, like, interesting because it everything on a blockchain. So why wouldn't a company, any company, I don't care if or any union, understand that that's what's going on? You have to follow the money. So pay attention to blockchain. And I had advised them, SAG-AFTRA since 2009. I advised them to buy gold at $885 an ounce. I said it's protection. You should put 10%. Major players on Wall Street do that. And big hedge fund managers, and and the biggest money managers in the world use it as a hedge. And I tried to get him to put 10%. It would be about 400 million of the pension fund. And had they listened, they'd be worth an additional $1 billion today. And I've told them every year. Then I told them a few years ago to buy Bitcoin. I think it was trading like 15,000. It's now trading 109, 108,000. And the hard part is that when you have people trained in traditional finance, again, it took me, like Michael Saylor goes, I got red pilled. I thought this is bullshit until me too. Everybody goes through that going, okay, this is no good. Or what is it? I didn't, only because I didn't understand it. But when I applied myself to understand it, when you have money that, portable, divisible, immediate exchange and a store of value, when you have something and you can see that, and really, what is money? Answer the question, like, how is it used? And if you want to use it as an asset, I mean, you it's unbelievable because even at 15 or 20,000, if someone even if unions had put some of their assets in it, even 5 billion, they made 5 times their money, which is good, in a couple of years, because it always, if you look at the charts, it always ends up going up. The halving happens, it always moves up. And and when you're looking at these protocols, you're trying to get a union that doesn't understand finance. Even the economists, they're economists and they don't understand capital wealth management. I mean, the CFO doesn't understand, most of them don't understand capital wealth management. Now, in sophisticated corporations, obviously Wall Street Treasury, the treasurers of corporations, they do. They know how to move money. They move money in the forex market to make money. They protect the treasury of their businesses, and they protect the pensions of their businesses. So when I've seen this deteriorate the last 5 years, and um, when I started, really diving into technology and blockchain technology from Spark, from the financial documentary that I did, uh, called The Paradigm of Money. Um, what happened was that I jumped in and created a model.
Sorry,
So,
before we do that, I really wanna thanks for explaining that. I feel like you covered a lot of ground. So I just really wanna narrow it down a bit more towards ethical media group. And I feel like you explained quite well on what are the benefits for the users that could potentially buy the token or the tokenized movies. But can you just double down on what's the benefit for the actors, and especially with AI? You mentioned AI on a few occasions. Why do you think that's a problem? Why do you think that it will be a problem for directors? Do you think that they should double down on AI and utilize it as a tool rather than being afraid of it?
well, I don't think anybody should be afraid of it. I mean, it's here. You can't duck it. You have to, embrace it and use it to the best of your ability. The problem is when the union shouldn't have given it away, because a union, AI should not be able to replace anything that a human can perform safely. The word is safely. So if you got Spider-Man swinging from a building to a building and you're putting a CGI, you're putting some AI in there, a human being is not going to do that, or they're not going to jump into a volcano full of lava. Or but how it's dangerous is because movies like Fast and Furious or Top Gun, with all the action they have in it and all the stunt performers that they employ, um, And, in the near future, they won't need to hire 30 stuntmen and spend millions and millions of dollars on these big action sequences because they can just do it with AI. Once it gets cost effective enough, they'll do that. That means the grips, the electrics, the script supervisors, the stunt people, the transportation people, everybody in IATSE, union, everybody in SAG-AFTRA, and there'll be no director, no DGA director for these sequences. So, um, that's gone. That'll eliminate, at least in my opinion, 30 to 35% of the employment. Though I do believe that people, the general public, they want to see people they can touch. In other words, in films, they want to see movies with the real Tom Cruise in it. They want to see movies with real actors in it, name actors that they can identify with, they could do press with, and have like a relationship with. Because look at, you can't, like, if I took, you can't have a relationship like this. The cell phone, that's not being related. And if you're just using AI, you're using, these characters. And I mean, and I think, and I don't know, if people want to go see a movie with a synthetic Tom Cruise in it, or a synthetic, George Clooney, or whoever the big name would be. I mean, they're going to say, okay, I'm going to rent myself on, I'm going to sit home, smoke a cigar, and I'm going to make some millions of dollars, and someone's going to recreation of me, of my likeness, and I'm on the screen. But what they did that was not good, they made scanning like this, 360-degree scanning. Sometimes an actor will go to work and they'll say, okay, on the contract now, you have to consent to scanning. Uh, and that means they can scan your liveness. But there's no biometric security. That was horribly. There's nothing in it. It's horribly negotiated. Biometric security is important. They can go to use that if someone steals it, make deep fakes out of it. Try to make IDs out of it. There's a lot of really, really important security issues that if they duplicate you, they can commit massive fraud. It's like giving someone a key to your fingerprints, which I think is very, very dangerous, to do. And these guardrails should have been negotiated in. The Directors Guild did not. They have no AI in their contract, but they should have, stood stronger. The Writers Guild and the SAG-AFTRA should have followed suit, and they should have said no artificial intelligence. And then it would have been here, if they would have all stood strong there, then it would have been simple. They would have just continued writing, and from human to human, and they could embrace AI technology, to make certain, sequences and movies better, but it would never discount, the writer, though it would never discount the writer. And in this negotiation, they still have to hire a certain number of writers, but that's only for the, next 2 years. I mean, and, every time the world changes, there's a lot of disruptive, like Uber was to taxi cabs and Netflix was to Blockbuster. You're talking about, if you don't keep up, you've got to change your model. And the bottom line is, it's business. So a business is going to do what makes money for them, whether it's disruptive or not. You think anybody said, "Oh, you shouldn't do that, you're cutting these people out of work." Really? Do you think Uber said that about taxi cab drivers? They didn't. And Blockbuster had an opportunity. They just could have copied Netflix when they were starting to do that at the basic level, creating that. If they would have followed suit with their same model, there would be no issue. They would still be in business today. But it takes foresight, to do that. But I do believe a lot of directors that I've talked to are very, very excited about what we're doing, because we remove the gatekeeper, our business model. You want to talk about our tech a little bit now?
Yeah, absolutely. Tell me a bit more about it.
Okay, so our, our tech, um, our tech uses advanced blockchain technology to tokenize film, music, and television. I say advanced blockchain technology because normal blockchains work. You have a block, you have information in the block, then there's a forward block when that's filled, and that when the forward block gets filled, the next block, they're all linear, or like airplanes lining up on a runway. You know what what double spend, or protecting against copying, pasting, and changing any information is, each forward block is hashed to the previous block, so they're all connected, and so you can't change anything on that chain. But the longer the chains get, the slower their transaction rate is and the higher the gas fees or the higher the transaction fees. Our blockchain works completely different with completely different mathematics. We scale on our native layer one chain. Like most of these protocols, when they try to tokenize other companies, they use Ethereum and they have to use like Polygon or Plasma on layer twos that put above them to make them scale, that come with a lot of vulnerabilities. We scale exponentially on a layer one blockchain, and our tokens are built into the blockchain. And so when you're tokenizing a film, um, when you're tokenizing a film, we're using much better protocols, and our blockchain, the Gingo blockchain, it's called a Gingo. We solve double spin in a unique way, different than Satoshi. Also, the Byzantine general's dilemma, yeah, we solved it a completely novel way. And the Byzantine, for the people that don't know that, Byzantine general's dilemma is like four captains are on all four corners of a perimeter, and that you want to make sure that they all attack at the same time to achieve consensus, because really what it is about consensus. So how do you know that one will be 20 minutes late? One won't just retreat and surrender and run away. You don't know. You can't guarantee consensus, but that's Satoshi Bitcoin solved the Byzantine general dilemma so they can achieve simultaneous consensus, as well as the Gingo. So the model works this is totally protective of artists and content creators. So if Oliver Stone wanted to make a movie about Nikolai Tesla, he puts out, this is a cool film, and I have Michael Keaton playing Nikolai Tesla, and he says that it's a $30 million budget. So he goes, my $1 million sales and tokens, they go on sale. So people end up purchasing, for $30 each, you could buy as many as you want. And once those tokens are done being purchased, there is no more, like Bitcoin. So they'll eventually have an exchangeable value that goes up. So once they buy the tokens, the film is completely funded. Everybody gets paid their union wages, their proper fees. Everything is done. The film is bonded. It's got a contingency, and the film is made. The people that put in the million token buyers, they're entitled to 50% of the profits, which are recorded on a blockchain. Again, this is a much more ethical, transparent, financial system. And then the content creators, the writer, producer, director, and any actor that they would give points to, would share 30% of the back end of the profits. And then the company AMG 20% for its tokenization service. So if you really look at it, this is a huge value add, that the residual formulas for the Writers Guild and SAG-AFTRA and the DJ are de minimis. And SAG-AFTRA's streaming residuals are really pretty poor, very, very poor. Theirs is on a pie in the sky viewership model, which algorithms can futz that. And they made the deal when people were in the pandemic, so they had a high viewership to get any bonuses, instead of making a revenue-based model, which it should have been. Everybody from Wall Street that invests in studios, they're all revenue-based. You make X amount of dollars across all your platforms, then the people that put in hundreds of millions into your studio, that's how they get paid. And they look at it at a quarterly report, which is common sense and a good, solid financial structure. But, since SAG-AFTRA didn't do that, the benefit with our company is that the money that is paid in the 30%, we could just pay the minimums, but not that 30%. If you run the math, comes out to about at least 4 to 5 times higher than the residual formulas that SAG-AFTRA has, or the WGA has. So it's a benefit and the money is all on a blockchain. So you could look at it. You can see the ARB scan. You can see the scan on a daily basis. Anybody can do it. It's just like Bitcoin. You could look at the Bitcoin blockchain. Miscan. You could just you could look at the tech and see what's coming in. It's totally transparent. And what it does is removes the gatekeeper. So I don't need somebody to greenlight my film. I just need the public to love it. So if you have an environmentalist and they want to make a movie about the Amazon rainforest and it's $500,000, you could tokenize it, you could promote it, you could sell swag peer to peer, you could sell information on, water, plants, identifying anything you want to do in an ecosystem. You could create a whole
Absolutely.
yeah, you could create a whole economic ecosystem using the technology, because really real estate's getting tokenized, gold,
Sorry.
silver.
Before we move to real estate, I just have a question about blockchain. You eloquently explained the technology, but I really want to understand, why do you think blockchain is an essential component of it? Could we employ this model within the current industry? And as you mentioned, like blockchain could be comparatively slow, quite expensive. I know that you created your own blockchain, Gingo, but tell me a bit more about the rationale behind having a blockchain.
The rationale of having a blockchain is having digital immutable ledger. That means you can't cheat. And the thing is why should good human beings that work hard, when you put your sweat equity into something, you'd want people to be honest and fair, and it makes it honest and fair. Like, you can't tell me, how is somebody right now going to cheat with Bitcoin? People, there's only so many. How are they going to cheat? It's everything is recorded on the chain. Think, oh, people go, it's dark web. People are using it to launder money. Really? It's all transparent. That's recorded. Anytime Bitcoin's been stolen, the FBI got them in 3 days. I mean, it's public, it's recorded, and it's honest. And if you wanted to do a real estate transaction or any transaction and you record it on a blockchain, they can't say, well, that wasn't the deal. Here's the deal. It's memorialized forever. This is the deal. It's right here. And, the same thing. And I mean, that's why Fake is talking about fractionalizing the same thing, or doing the same thing as they call it. Michael Saylor calls it digital gold. But digital is the key. Digital, so everything is going digital. And when you're doing a transaction, you know, when you're in a situation where you're creating an honest ecosystem, because what blockchain enables, the right blockchains, the good blockchains, they create an honest ecosystem. And that's something that really don't have. If anybody wants to say that Wall Street is an honest ecosystem, they would be smoking their lunch. It's certainly it's certainly not that. I mean the amount of insider trading. I mean, you can just look at GameStop and AMC and that saga, and the many other, frauds on our fraudulent business practices on Wall Street. I mean, how many times has Goldman or JP Morgan got prosecuted for financial crimes? I mean, JP Morgan spoofed the gold and silver market from 2008 to 2016. They got fined $920 million. And yet they just got made the custodian of the SLV and the GLD, two of the biggest proxies for gold and silver on the market in the world. So it's like the fox guarding the hen house. But we, finance people, when you look at that, we don't understand why. It's pretty crazy that these things happen. But we also know there's a role for gold as a tier one asset, and physical gold has always been around, and it'll continue to be a tier one asset. And money systems, the BRICS, and Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa have a new trading currency that's going to be backed 60% by gold, and they're trading with each other. I mean, the dollar, we're not on the petrodollar agreement anymore, which was probably very foolish by the last administration. So I think that enabled the dollar to get hit. It's almost like signing the US dollar like it's a dead man walking by not, you know, renewing the petrodollar agreement. So, I mean, when you have old markets like this, you really have to educate yourself on participating in commerce. Blockchain allows you a way to participate, but like anything, when I didn't understand anything about it, I was like, "Oh God, it's look at this! Here's something new." It's like somebody that goes to school for the first time and first learns a principle of, this is what a checkbook is, or here's how you purchase a home loan, or this is an origination fee, and just educating them the pitfalls, the pros and cons, what to look for, when you're just doing business, like financial literacy. So financial literacy should be upped in the world. It should be taught. And that's a little pet peeve. Financial literacy is very important. and they don't teach it enough in schools. And because most people that work on Wall Street, if they're speaking to the average person, it's like speaking another language. They do not, you know, they do not understand it. So there's, even in the world today, there's a credit crisis, a bond crisis, a commercial office space, real estate crisis. All these things are due and payable, $37 trillion deficit. I mean, the bottom line is you really want some assets that really have some intrinsic value. And the blockchain is a good value add to keep people honest. And that's why I'm a proponent of it. And that's why you have to follow the money. If I see the governor, Larry Fink, stating this, and other big companies all jumping in and investing in blockchain, you can either turn a blind eye, say, I don't like it, or you can follow the money. Now, whether you like it or not has no bearing on reality. If it's happening, you have to follow the money. If you want to participate in that ecosystem. But uh, our purpose is to create an ethical, honest ecosystem. We call it Ethical Media Group because our mandate is to support projects, film and television, that are based in ethics, principles, morals, values, spirituality, environmentalism, and the thing is that a lot of people across the country don't care for a lot of people in Hollywood because they had constantly preached to them. It's like people in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, and creating an ecosystem where you can have wholesome films that are, that a lot of them are based upon God, all of them are based upon ethics, a lot of them are based upon, high principled values. Why wouldn't you want to show a story that demonstrates people, men and women of character? Have stories not, over sexualized or, or gratuitous violence to put it. You don't need to put that into your brain. The stories of, positivity and the triumph of the human spirit. Even films like Erin Brockovich was a beautiful film because it told about one woman's struggle to protect people, being of service to people, to protect their health when they were getting, poisoned by toxic water. I mean, there's a lot of beautiful stories, and we should also be excelling in stories about science and industry, mathematics, you know, really, computer science, geometry. There's many, many, many other things that are not being done. Our real environmentalists is our water, our air. I mean, the clean food, water, and air is probably the biggest mandate any human being can have, because without that, the species of human beings won't won't be very successful if they're not healthy.
And while you were talking about these beautiful and inspiring stories, I was just wondering, do you have any filmmakers that are currently fundraising on the platform? And what's the feedback that they've given you? Also, do you have on the supply side people that are interested in funding these movies?
Well, the supply side is the general public. When we launch in about 3 weeks from now. So yeah, we have films in the pipeline. We have many prominent filmmakers interested in this model, and as soon as we execute the first model, I mean, we have a pretty big pipeline of content to put out. And you see, this really levels the playing field. If you have a brilliant idea that people want to fund, I mean, it's a much better way to go, to do, because it's a system where you don't have a gatekeeper. It gets financed by the people who support it. It's more like it's the same model that Angel Studios does this without really tokenization, more crowdfunding. And that, the competitor, they just do this crowdfunding, but you really don't have a stake in it, and you really don't make that kind of capital that you would be vested in, because two people could go to a movie. You go to a movie with your girl or your wife, it costs you $60 because it might cost you close to 40 to get in. And then if you get popcorn and a drink, you're spending $60 to go to a theater. You buy one token for a film, $30, and you get the right to watch the film. And the bottom, we shoot in tax incentive states, you know, on the total spend. So we also recover 30% back 4 months, 5 months after we shoot the film. That goes back to the bottom line. Any ad revenue goes back to the bottom line. You know, any product placement goes back to the bottom line. And it becomes, an ecosystem where the middlemen people that supported, that pre-bought the film, they'll be promoting it everywhere. They'll be going, hey, watch this, because the more people watch it, because we have a system where we also would sell rental tokens to people if people wanted to rent it, and it goes right back into the ecosystem, recorded on a blockchain. And so it's kind of like it's like a streaming platform with ownership. Amazon, Netflix with ownership. You have ownership and you have a stake. It's like owning digital DVDs. Like I have 500 DVDs, more than that, regular physical DVDs. But if they're all digital and I supported them, about a token, I could watch the film on any device, on my phone, my iPad, my computer, or my big screen surround sound. That's a for me, that's a really a big value add, because if you accumulate a lot of these digital, quote unquote, uh, DVDs, you're making money from them passively. It makes you a stakeholder in the content that you love and support, and with complete transparency, and everything completely recorded on a digital ledger. It's the same, the principle, like when people talk about I'm going to tokenize real estate or big buildings, and people can buy fractionalized ownership if they're doing that. We, ours, when you're talking about intellectual property, it's very similar. It's very, very similar to that in its model.
So, as you mentioned earlier on, like filmmakers are not normally the technologists and they struggle with emerging technology. Can you just elaborate on how are you planning to incentivize film directors to come and utilize the technology that you're providing and how easy it will be for them? That's on the demand side. That's on the supply side, but on the demand side, like as an end user, how challenging would it be for me to buy one of those tokens? Would I need to have a wallet, or would it be like abstracted and you won't talk about blockchain at all? You'll just provide the technology without using this jargon and language used within the industry.
It would just be an app, like any app. You hit your app. There's a list of films in the catalog that you can buy. You hit the film, buy a token. You can buy a token. It's simple. It's very, 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 very simple to do. And it's easy. You can have a list. We also have a website, which is you could get on our waiting list by, it's www.epicalmediagroup.io, and you could put yourself on a waiting list if you're interested in either purchasing tokens or a film, if you're a filmmaker and you want to put your film up there. But it's a pretty simple process. It's once we come out and do the first project, it's a very easy process for someone to do that. Our app will roll out in the next 14 days, and then once we start our our press campaign, it's a pretty straightforward process. It's like a kid going to it's like a kid having a wallet and his iPhone, and he wants to buy some crypto with it. It is easy, or easier than doing that. It's very simple. And in our app, we have something called a pocket, which is where all the finance goes. You know, it's very user friendly. And so if anybody wanted to look at what we're doing, it's like it's really protective of the artist, because the artist then they get treated much better and much more fair, and it's much easier for them, to raise capital to do their projects without having to worry about, oh, I didn't get this actor yet. If the idea is brilliant, people want to see it, it gets produced. And they have a guaranteed audience because it's pre-bought. It's guaranteed. Their film is funded. All the people that funded it. That's their initial audience. When it starts coming out with distribution and it gets moved onto onto different platforms and promoted by traditional press and all the people that own the tokens, it 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 becomes a new a economic ecosystem. Because in tokenization, you could pretty much raise money for anything. You could raise money for healthcare. You could raise money, for people. I mean, you could really democratize and decentralize many different business models. And I chose the film and television because I saw my brothers and sisters in the creative field, I see a lot of them, the people that won the Academy Award last year, Honora. I don't think those filmmakers, a long project, small budget. They didn't make nothing. They didn't make much money to speak of at all. So, and it's very difficult for independent films because they don't have monopolistic studios promoting all their films, so it's very difficult. But for the independent filmmaker, just to be able to do their job, that was only, I think, a $6 million budget when that Honora film. So that would be pretty simple to raise and give independent filmmakers, a voice again, because that business is dying. If you wanted to do independent film or independent television, you really, tokenization is one of the, in my opinion, is the answer that will democratize and decentralize media, really truly decentralize media, because people will fund what they want to see. If they don't want to see it, they won't buy the tokens. And the key is, this takes the research and development out of the equation. There's no R&D. The R&D is in proof in the pudding. We like it. We don't like it. Great. That's it. So, I mean, like, there's so many stories that people want to see, even, what I used to find fascinating is on YouTube, we could tokenize podcasts. I mean, imagine, it would be a much better deal, and be much more difficult for people to censor them as well, because, a lot of them, they go, I can't use this word or that word. And then they'll take down my episode. Well, I mean, that shouldn't happen under freedom of speech. I mean, you should be able to, you shouldn't be promoting hate or garbage, but you should be able to, you shouldn't, if you disagree with somebody in society, you should be able to disagree with them. It's your opinion. And what always promotes speech that might be incorrect is better speech that corrects it. That's what's been happening for centuries. That's the way I learned in school. Someone said something, oh, well, that was wrong. Then the teacher would correct it, or a student go, this is the answer. I go, wow, that's right. And he goes, oh, okay. So, people speaking, and, you think people are like genius computers, that everything comes out of their mouth and data is perfect. It isn't. But that's how human beings learn, by interacting with each other and civilly. Now, because if you like chocolate, I like vanilla, you're still my brother. I mean, I still love you. This ethic has to be raised in society, because it's not now. I mean, Jesus, if you're on the different side of anybody's political spectrum, it's like you're on the chopping block. Instead of going and saying you still have a heart, a soul, you're still a good, mother, father, brother, sister, you're still, people that, participate in society. And since all souls are created equal, people have to understand there's a higher, spiritual ethic that we can, all create together to make a better planet.
And earlier on, you mentioned SAG-AFTRA on a couple of occasions, and I have a few questions. I know that you run for a Secretary of Treasury in 2023. Are you planning to get involved this year? What are you hoping to achieve? Were you disappointed when you couldn't make it for whatever reason? What would you change?
Well, I ran for Secretary Treasurer in 2023, though very successful in my field, but not a celebrity. And SAG-AFTRA usually elects people based upon popularity, not business acumen, which is not very productive. So I'm running again this year. I'm in the middle of this. I think this campaign starts in August, but I qualified, with the signatures, uh, and Secretary Treasurer is a financial position, and really there's been very few Secretary Treasurers that understood anything about finance, and they don't know where to look if they had to audit, their financial statements. I mean, past Connie Stevens and Kent McCord were probably two of the best Secretary Treasurers, I believe, SAG-AFTRA has ever had. But nowadays they have nobody that understands much about finance. I mean, SAG-AFTRA purchased a building for 49 million, 48 million cash in a horrible area. It's basically Laurel Canyon and Chandler in Los Angeles, across the street from a Domino's, across the street from railroad tracks. They purchased it in the worst commercial real estate market in the world. The building was tax assessed at $23 million. Today, I don't believe you could sell that building for $15 million, and they only purchased it, less than 2 years ago. And when you have that kind of waste, and people voting up things based upon um, emotion, not based upon data, because at that time I provided a property profile and I showed everybody on that team 23. It's only tax assessor 23. Tax assessors are usually a little bit low, but they didn't even have a comp for that building. The closest comparable was 4 miles away, 4 times the property, 4 acres of land, and the taxes and the value of that building was 37 million. They paid 49, and the bottom line is they had buildings in LA that were 120 million that sold for 47 million, completely remodeled Art Deco. I mean, there were so many deals that were going on, and because of the pandemic, a lot of people weren't occupying office space, so like right now, buildings in Portland that were selling for 220 million are going for 24 to 27 million dollars. It's unbelievable. This particular commercial, office space downturn in this market is one of the worst in history. But and fiscal responsibility also means protecting your pension and health plan. And the issue is that SAG-AFTRA, or SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, always had 90% of contributions to the plan. They had 90 throughout history, 98% of the contributions, and AFTRA only had 2. And sometimes it fluctuated to 3%. But when they merged the union, SAG and AFTRA, they basically bailed out AFTRA's uh, pension plan because it was failing. And though in history, if SAG had 98% of the contributions, after they merged in 2012, um, they made a deal so 43% of the contributions would go to AFTRA's plan, because most of the contracts are SAG, and 57% would go into SAG, which really isn't fair because throughout history, it should have been a 98 2% split. So basically, the SAG, Screen Actors Guild members, got robbed of their of at least 41% of contributions. And the second factor that was pretty nefarious was the accrual rate of their pension contributions was 3.5%. And in 2010, during the financial crisis, they lowered the members' accrual rate to 2%. They let the staff's rate at 3.5%. So you lost another, $15 every $100, and it's in donation. So that really damaged our members. However, the staff didn't get hurt at all. It's a lot of a lot of people believe it's self-dealing, and there's a lot of things about this union that people don't understand that are pretty nefarious. I mean, in the contract in 2020, they came out and stated that there was a windfall of 54 million that they had negotiated in pension and health plans. And I go, wow, that's really great. But what they didn't tell you, what I found out, is 54 million, 75% of that 54 million was taken from the actor's cost of living that just moved over. So it wasn't negotiated. The producers didn't put it in their pocket. It was a complete sham used to sell, their contract. And then, by the way, 2 weeks after that event, after they announced that, and as soon as they signed the contract, which is a really poor contract, 8,200 seniors got kicked off of their senior performers, got kicked off their promised lifetime medical. So I put together a lawsuit in the name of Ed Asner and sued the health plan, and we won $20.6 million. Well, I just say we settled for $20.6 million for the benefit of the seniors that lost their health care. And imagine seniors who are making 50, 100, 150,000 in residuals from their previous work, not qualifying for health care using their residuals because the qualifications are only about 28,000 a year. But because they made it when you're 65, they penalized you and said, you have Medicare, so we're not going to give you health care, which is not good because they pay higher dues on that health care money. I mean, on their residuals, they pay higher dues. If you make 50 or 100 grand, your dues payment are not the base dues. So not only you're paying higher dues, you're paying taxes on that money. And all of a sudden it doesn't count to qualify for health care. And the other thing that people should know about SAG-AFTRA is only 14% out of 160,000 members qualify for health care. That's 28 grand. So that means only 14% of the union members are even at the poverty level for earning money, because a lot of the 28,000 is a poverty level. But if you're looking at it, you're looking at approximately 16,000 members out of 160. So when they say we're the biggest labor union and 160,000 members strong, you're not. Half of the members don't earn a dollar, and
So what would you change? It sounds like there are a lot of problems, and we have around 5 minutes. So tell me one thing that you would change about SAG-AFTRA, because I want to move with the final question about what you're building at the moment.
I would change the financial model. I would change the business model and how it operates. And what you'd have to do is take a look at the books, and you have to streamline it and see where any money is being wasted. You want all monies to go to vendors that produce a value add, you know, for SAG-AFTRA members. You want to put money towards organizing. You want to create more jobs. You want to make sure you have enough reps to collect all the claims and all the residuals and the monies due our performers. And what you have to do is you have to run at a very efficient ship, because if you're spending, 2 million on lobbying or 2 million on IT, I want to know what that accomplished. I want to know how much money and what that IT did to actually benefit our members. Is the shop streamlined? Is our web portals made much better? Uh, are they made? Is our technology up to date where people could submit themselves for jobs? Is there a way to use our 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 company to promote and organize the business of acting, voiceovers, you know, I, also not acting and just not so much acting and voiceovers, the entire medium of entertainment across the spectrum. Those jobs should want to be increased. And the way to create jobs is to unionize a lot of other territories around the United States of America. But you have to get, fiscally responsible first. You have to go over the books and you have to see where we're saving money, where we're wasting money. And the other thing that they need to do is what they used to do. They need to put out a financial report once a year, which they don't do. Well, which shows them the television contract, the theatrical contract, the voiceover contracts, anything like a puppeteer makes, voiceovers, streaming, every category of work, net code, every category of work that the Screen Actors Guild uses. They have to lay those out and post the money made in each to see where we're succeeding and where we're failing. So we know the members and the staff have a barometer of where we need to go to where we need to improve on. I mean, you really have to use analytics, and if you want to you should bring AI in to collect residuals. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do fiscally that would make this union, really operate, more like a business instead of a board, you know.
Thanks for that. I feel like there's a lot that you'd like to change. So I wish you all the luck with the campaign, and hopefully it will play out the way that you desire. But my final question is about ethical media groups. So what would you consider success? You mentioned that you'll be launching in around 3 weeks. What would you consider a successful launch and a good start of this business?
Successful launch is simple, just tokenizing, just being successful in raising the funds through tokenization, period, the end. Last thing, Taylor Swift did this without tokenizing, which is the model. She did a concert, she just filmed it, did a couple behind the scenes interviews, marketed it as a documentary, sent it to her list, and made $150 million in like 6 weeks. Now, if you do this the same principle on your tokenizing, everything would be on a blockchain, everything would be transparent. But she would have the wherewithal to those whatever 80 million fans that bought it. She would be able to then market those to people, swag, extras, different videos. She can market those and create commerce and revenue from that too, from having a peer-to-peer relationship, because wouldn't it be nice? Kids would love a peer-to-peer relationship where like someone like Taylor Swift can go, yeah, hey, do you like this? Can you make a picture of this? And she could, yeah, her team could review things. And by communicating, it feels a lot more personal because you have a much better relationship, from content creator to end user. And I think that's, really positive. And I think it could be used for educational purposes as well. You could tokenize business courses, certain courses in business from certain business leaders. I mean, you can get Ray Dalio to come on and do a tokenized series on finance to teach people. I would love that. I think that would be invaluable for that because watching so many of his videos and Jeremy Grantham and people that are brilliant in finance, watching them or have someone get educated in blockchain. Hey, it's a $2 course. Great. I got 5 episodes. I want to do that. I would do that. I would buy that. I mean, the education, could change the game. It's very empowering, this kind of technology, and one thing that I like, it really puts the power back into the content creators' hands, and they get paid what they're supposed to get paid for their efforts, and they really should, because filmmakers do garbage movies for big money, and they do all these independents for nothing that they love because they tell really heartfelt stories, that are the triumph of the human spirit, something that they love, like My Left Foot or Shine or any of these old beautiful movies that they have passion to do, but they don't get paid, to do those films, and sometimes it takes them so long, it takes so many years out of their lives to do it. Then they do the Incredible Hulk and get paid stupid money, and then say, "Good. Well, after I just made a few $1,000,000, now I can go back to being an independent filmmaker and making the films I want and get a little bigger of a budget," Because I think Ang Lee was operating on no money. I mean, 200,000, it's a year, 2 years, and small independence he did until he did one big movie, got paid big, and he basically, because I wanted to have money for my family, I don't have to worry about that for my family, so then I could go back to making the movies I love. So we want to change the game for, independent film and independent artists, and we really, really support, the artistic visions of people where they don't have a gatekeeper, where if their idea is good and their material is good, if the people agree, then they get funded, and it then becomes an honest, debtless ecosystem.
Absolutely. I'd love to leave you on that note. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for sharing your story, and we would love to have you on the podcast again.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ivan. Thank you so much, my brother. So have a really good day.
Thank you.
You bet.